All right. Episode 5 of the Uncommon Dialogue podcast. I'm Lance Yatuma. Thank you for listening, everybody. I've got somebody I can call a friend now, Manhattan businessman, Anthony Sarafino. Welcome.
Lance, it's a pleasure to be here with you. It's an uncommon dialogue, but a conventional podcast. I'm really excited to spend some time with you here.
Thanks. For anybody that doesn't know you, and I've only known you for a short time, just give a quick backstory of who you are and where you're from, if you're a native New Yorker, and after that, what's the state of New York City right now?
Sure. Yes. I hail from the Upper East Side of Manhattan in New York City. It's a place I call home. Despite what you hear in the news, I do love it, despite we've gone through a lot. You know, being a New Yorker, we've gone through 9/11. We've gone through some of these riots that occurred over the summer of 2020. New York has been through a ton. I went to Michigan State University, so East Coast kid going out to the Midwest. That was such an adjustment for me, but it was a great adjustment to see not just what this country is about. And I think that's what makes our country so great. It's not just what you see in these blue states, cities and whatnot. What is New York City, right? A complete echo chamber for all the things you see on the fake news. So I think it's really important to understand. Unfortunately, conservatives and like-minded Republicans like myself are really in such minority on the city that is New York. You know, the 212, Michigan has the 313, which is Detroit, and we have the 212, which is Manhattan. So it's really a shame because you really only see what you see on television or what the media wants to report of what is New York. And it is a shame. We'll get back, but it's a direct representation of the policy. So I am a businessman, as you mentioned. I'm a produce executive. I'm a real estate executive, logistics. So our family and our companies do a lot of things in the New York City area. We are based in New York, New Jersey. We have a facility in New Jersey. A lot of our customer base is in New York. We do all across the East Coast. But it's just it's a sad state of affairs, what's happened, Lance, in New York. But we'll get back. We have a shitty mayor. I'm sure we'll delve into that. But it's excited once again to be with you. And that's just a really quick snapshot of what I do every day.
I mean, what is it, July or June 5th that New York City is finally opening back up fully again?
Yeah, unbelievable, right? July 1st, and it all locks into what they were talking about Biden, or President Biden, giving a speech about how he wanted 4th of July to be the great grand opening. And it's just like, excuse me, sir. I mean, where have you been? You go down to these states like Florida or Texas or even Georgia now. I mean, they've been open, but yeah, they're making New York July 1st like the great reopening, and it's the Roaring 20s again. That's what they're calling it. It's unbelievable.
I was thinking about it to myself at the gym the other day about how weird is it to have like the most densely populated city in the country in such a lockdown type of state to keep people away from each other for so long.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't that weird?
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
You talk about the New York metropolitan area. It's got 28 million plus people in the tri-state area, is what was the most densely populated area in this country. New York City has about 9 million people, just New York City, 5 boroughs. And to keep that cluster, that heavily populated and dense of an area sequestered and locked down and shuttered for so long is unbelievable. I'm listening to what Governor Cuomo is saying, that the Broadway can fully open in September 14th of 2021. So Broadway has been shut down for now 18 months until that opening. I've seen it, Lance. I live it. I used to live in another part of town where, depending on where you go, closer to the theater district, these businesses are struggling. And let's not forget, we've shut indoor dining down in New York City, not once, but twice. And that second indoor dining shutdown was the nail in the coffin. So It's unbelievable. I have to hand it to a lot of New Yorkers that have been so resilient through this whole mess. But at the end of the day, you reap what you sow, and you vote for these policies. Don't expect anything different. These are what these people want. They cry public health, and then they blame it on something else. But let's be honest, Americans can make their own decisions, and we don't need the government to tell us what we can and cannot do and how we should feel safe, right? So these are all, and New Yorkers are fed up.
You know, it really does strike me as odd, though, how it's like, let's make every single decision we can and just keep going full throttle on it. And then when it finally fucks up, then we'll just blame it on somebody else. It's like, well, where's the accountability in that? Like,
There is none, right?
Yeah, there is none. It makes me really think, like, there's a YouTuber who I, like, follow, and he was like, you know what? Like, the political left really is basically, at this point, they're Thanos. They really are. They just have to go full throttle until they accomplish what they did. And
away, right? And so I mean, that's what we really need at this point. It's just, there is no accountability, right? That's the playbook, right? Because at first, I'm sorry, they use the coronavirus as a manipulation of policies and politics. They first got their way, right? And that was the dispose of the 45th president of the United States, which was President Donald Trump. They got rid of him, blamed coronavirus, and now, it's the big reopening and Biden's now in charge of it. So it just really depends on where your policies stand and how they're crying public health for things that Americans should make their own decisions about. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when they chastised Governor Abbott in Texas for opening up MLB, the Texas Rangers could have a full stadium, and they said, oh, don't worry, the spike is coming. The spike is coming. Lance, the spike never came. So, and it's the same thing about it. This is the same guy that everyone was calling Governor Cuomo the love gov. And he is the one just a few days ago said, get vaccinated if you love your grandmother, if you love your grandfather. This guy is tone deaf.
Wow, he really said that shit?
Yes, he is tone deaf. He is tone deaf. You can't make it up. This is a man that manipulated nursing home data from the New York State Department of Health while, Lance, he was writing a book on how well of a job he was doing / did, when in reality, he was doing a shitty job uncovering and covering up data and not upholding the facts that needed to be said. So it's just,
this is just so obvious for people that can really see how these, like, really left-wing, like, self-aggrandizing, super educated elites are. Like, they just love praising themselves so fucking much.
Well, I mean,
that even no matter how bad the situation is, they just have to praise themselves so much and pat themselves on the back so damn much that by the time, like, any bad news comes around and that they can't get their way around it, they even dig deeper about it and just, like, always find a scapegoat somehow. And it's like,
and who was Governor Cuomo's scapegoat, right? It was President Trump. This is a guy that he blamed President Trump for the coronavirus outbreak in the state that he governs, when in reality, they sent a U.S. naval floating hospital to the Hudson River of New York City, the Comfort, and that they didn't even use it once, Lance. They used the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to build a field hospital in Javits Center, which ironically
never filled up.
Once owned by President Trump, to build a field hospital in a convention center of Manhattan. And I would drive by it, the National Guard patrolling. Lance, they didn't use it. They didn't use it because instead, when all this infrastructure and all these resources were deployed to the state of New York, Governor Cuomo sent COVID positive patients into nursing homes, killing a vulnerable population, which we know that Governor DeSantis did the right thing, put seniors first, vaccinating seniors first if you chose to get vaccinated, and protected the vulnerable population. But like you said, they love this guy can do no harm.
Yeah, and dude, it's like at some point somebody's just got to say like, "Damn, we messed up. What do you want to do about it?"
There's just no accountability, right?
Let's find a crisis right now just to get attention off of us, and they were successful with it. They were so successful with it.
I mean, we're both old enough to remember the Me Too movement, right?
Yeah.
The Me Too movement works when
It does.
it works when the person that is getting canceled is a Republican. But when they're a Democrat, you can forget and forgive, right? Instead about canceling someone without due process and actually getting the facts out, Governor Cuomo cancels people without getting canceled himself. So it's just ridiculous. This is a guy that's got 100 scandals. He's got this, he's got the nursing home, he's got 19 whatever accusers. I'm obviously just, making it a bigger point than it is, but he's got 10 accusers, Lance, and they're just not talking about it. This is the guy that in the middle of the coronavirus breakout, right? The stay-at-home order, the whole shit show of what was 2020, or at least that second quarter early of 2020, he was on with his brother, Chris Cuomo, with this big-ass Q-tip, and he's going like this, if you remember that clip. So these people just don't get it. Yeah. Like, they're just so tone deaf, right? Because if you're a Democrat, you have all the cushion and cover in the world. I always joke, in my next life, I will be a Democrat. It's much easier.
It's so much easier.
So much easier, right? You don't have to worry about getting canceled, right? Because when you have 9 accusers or 15 accusers, whatever Governor Cuomo has, it's okay, right? Me Too only applies for Republicans, not for Democrats. Yeah. So it's an easier life, right? It's just, you can't make it up. So it's like a fairy tale, right? And then you have, I can't believe it, I'm on certain things, I'm on Bill de Blasio's side, who's another guy I can't stand. And he's going back and forth with Governor Cuomo, the love gov. So the New York State politics scene is just crazy, right? Like, we make Governor Whitmer look good, which is so tough to do.
Yeah.
It's
going like kind of like the minimum capacity state. If you can eat outside, eat outside. But it's like, dude, it was 40 degrees last night here. And I've tried going out to eat twice in the wintertime. Man, the second time I was like, this is the last time I'll do it. The second time I wanted my favorite filet, and I was like, you know what? If I can't have this fucking filet inside, I got to have it outside. And I'm telling you, that shit didn't taste the same outside when it was 20 degrees.
Lance, it's nuts, right? The most lockdown states in this country are the ones that are spiking. The ones that are the most restrictive are the ones that are still struggling with the coronavirus. What is going on, right? And now I just saw something today that said social distancing is a privilege. Look what's happening in India. Have we lost our minds? I mean, the answer is yes, right? Yeah. We've left planet Earth a while ago. But the most restrictive and most lockdown states in this country are the ones that are still going through this. And it's like, we need approval to eat indoors. No, Governor Whitmer. No, Governor Cuomo. I don't need you to tell me that I want to eat inside with my friends. If you're not comfortable, then you can stay home. That's the difference, right? Democrats, if you're not comfortable, shut the whole thing down. Republicans, if you're not comfortable, you can stay home and keep it open for the rest of us. That's the difference. Democrats shut everything down. Republicans take it on themselves and say, you know what, I'm not comfortable, I'm going to stay home, but keep things open. And you know what? The people that want to have a good time, God bless you. I don't have that strength yet. Ridiculous.
I got a funny story to share. So like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was on the east side of the city. I walked inside of a gas station, and there's like 2 like elderly men. And one has like his mask dangling from his ear, and he's just smoking a cigarette. The other guy is like 6 feet away from him, but he's like got his mask on. He's like, "Hey man, you got to put a mask on. You can't come inside without the mask covering your face." Both elderly, right? What does the guy smoking a cigarette do? He goes, "Man, you know what? I can either smoke my cigarette or wear a mask, and I ain't gonna do both." Proceeds to blow the smoke right in his face, just.
Yeah.
Right? He goes right after, "What the fuck you gonna do about it?"
I love that. Because you know what, Lance? It's like we're at a point now where, I'm sorry, Dr. Fauci just keeps moving the goalposts. And that's what's happening, right? And we want to get in a sense of normalcy. They want to keep, I tweeted this earlier and I said, they want to keep us trapped in this pandemic forever. That's the goal, right? Infrastructure is now no longer bridges, roads, and tunnels. Infrastructure is equality. Infrastructure is healthcare. Infrastructure is anything to do that what we want with our liberal agenda.
You go down to Florida now, which is like completely wide open as of like, what was it, Monday, I think?
Yep.
I mean, if you were to walk inside of like a fucking supermarket and someone asked me why you have a mask, I'm like, because of COVID. That person, I would not be surprised about COVID. That shit's still going around.
Yeah.
We good down here, man. Take that shit off.
Tell you, if it wasn't for the state of Florida, I mean, being a New Yorker and having that state so locked down, the state of Florida was such an oasis for me. And I always had an appreciation of Florida. God bless. I grew up going to Florida. My mother is Cuban. So I've had a lot of influence of going to Miami, going to different parts of the state, having a lot of relatives in the state. I've just gained an even further appreciation for the state of Florida, for Governor Ron DeSantis, and everything they did. You can have a mental health aspect. You know, I got news for you. You live in a studio apartment in New York City, whatever it may be, right? And then being locked down into that, Lance, that's difficult. Yeah. And then you go down to Florida and then shit is open and then you can do what you want to do. And then you can realize that, wow, there's civil liberties and freedom here. Wait, because that was never supposed to be given up with to begin with. Because people, you give them an inch, they take a foot. That's just how they operate. You think Governor Gavin
is taking a fucking mile?
What?
They're not taking a foot. They're taking a fucking mile, dude.
They're taking a mile, bro. They are taking a complete mile. They don't care, right? They're all about controlling our lives and then say, now the new take is infrastructure. Now the new take is equality. I got news for you. Being a business owner and being an entrepreneur, I can't hire people fast enough. And guess what? I spoke to a lot of friends that are also business owners in the industry. No one wants to work because the government is incentivizing you to stay home with all this stimuluses that you don't need, really. The last stimulus was a push, but it's okay. Biden can do no wrong because he said 2,000, you got 1,400, but that's okay because he's a Democrat. He's not held accountable. But that's another conversation, right? You can't hire people because you're incentivized to stay home. I got people at work and it's just like, I'm trying to hire a guy and it said, oh wait, unemployment, $903 and a weekly benefit. And I'm paying that guy gross. Why would he come back to work? So, so at the end of the day, we are seeing a travesty in our country because there's not enough people to fill jobs up. People want to get out. It's, you've run the course with this. Oh, of course, and it's just
not even just that, but if people really want to have dignity for themselves, go get a job. You build dignity by getting a job and fulfilling a purpose. I mean, seriously, you did something for yourself and you learned a skill along the way and you just learned how to deal with people a hell of a lot better than before. Go get a damn job, dude.
So simple, right? I don't know. Maybe it's just the DNA in me. Maybe it's my conservative self, but life is a do-it-yourself job. And it's just I don't want to be paid to stay home. Big government is not good. I don't care how you slice it. People want to get out and work. I don't want a check from the government. It's so simple. And I don't understand. I mean, I do, right? You have lazy people. But I don't understand how people don't see it that way as well. Because would you rather just create your own destiny and your own journey and your own path to success? Or would you want to just sit on your ass at home, not worry about it, and just get a check from the government? I got news for you. If you're picking the latter, you're not for me.
Yeah.
It's just basic understanding principles of the economy. So that's the problem now, Lance, that we're seeing in New York City, right? So New York City, you got all these restaurants that have laid people off. Bar seating just opened up this past week. So now you can sit at the bar. The government has said, we're allowing you to sit at the bar. Congratulations. That should have never been taken away to begin with. So give me a break. If I could sit at a table, I could sit at a bar stool. But that's another conversation. These restaurants, they don't have the employees. Everyone is furloughed. And to bring these people back, why? Because now they're paying to stay home. Unemployment benefits have been extended. They're giving you the extra $300 per week. So when you really dissect the math, it's like, you know how these servers and the people in the hospitality industry work? They make very little hourly pay and they're all on tips. Yeah. So now you've got the people where it's like, well, with these capacity restrictions, there's less tables per hour that we're going to serve. That's less money we're going to make. I'll stay home.
Yeah.
So now you're having a shortage.
I work for more, I can just get half for free.
Bingo. Yeah. And the latter, and you know, Lance, it's the sad part about this country is there's a lot of people that disagree with us and say, you know what? I'd rather sit on my ass home and not care about that flag over your right shoulder and say, you know what? I'm going to stay home and I'm going to collect a check from the government. And you know what? That's the way the cookie's going to crumble for me. And the government is telling you, okay, because they're building their next voter base.
I mean, I could just imagine it now. Like, I'm thinking about going to New York City maybe this summer just because I haven't been in a few years. And it really is still my absolute favorite city in the country to go to.
It is.
I fucking love New York City. I swear, if I could move there and live there for just 1 year in my life soon,
it's a great place to live.
I would probably do it in a fucking heartbeat. No joke. If I could just find a job just to keep me busy and pay rent, at least I could look back in my life and say, at least I lived in New York City and I did it for a year. Great time I had.
You know,
I could just imagine it now, like going there for a weekend. And if restaurants are opening back up, just seeing like help wanted signs everywhere.
Everywhere. You know what the thing is, Lance? You're not even seeing that. You know what you're seeing? You're seeing retail space for lease, store for rent, restaurant for rent. I put something on my Instagram a few months back, and it was just talking about my block. This once vibrant block of storefront, retail. Now it's empty windows, store for rent, retail space for lease, restaurant for rent, buildings for sale that no one's going to buy. So you're not even seeing help wanted because the businesses that were help wanted, they didn't make it. They barely made it through the first indoor dining shutdown. And then this governor and this mayor with no remorse because they've never run a business in their life, killed it, axed it, nailed in the coffin with this second indoor dining shutdown in December. So holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating, that time of year where people are out, about, hustling, shopping, it wasn't the same buzz. A lot of people during that time of year in December make a lot of their annualized gross income during that month because you have the show, you have Radio City, you have the Rockettes, you have the Broadway, you have the sporting events, everything that's out and about. None of that happens. Broadway's been closed. So all these restaurants, for instance, in the theater district, there's not even a help wanted sign. They're just empty. How many emails did I get of all my favorite restaurants that I've loved? First dates, Valentine's Day, dinner with my parents, dinner with my employees, dinner with my clients, vendors, whoever it may be. That restaurant doesn't even exist anymore. Those memories are in my mind. Those pictures have been taken. Those pictures have been framed. But those places don't even exist. They're gone. And that's the sad part is, New York will be back, but let's not forget what it took to get to where we were. Liberal policies, a disgrace, a lockdown that should have never been after it even happened, and it occurred. And the most lockdown states are still struggling.
That was the next question I was going to ask you, which was, I haven't been there in a few years, like I said, and from what I'm reading and watching on TV, it seems like it's all doom and gloom everywhere around New York City, but I talk to you now, it seems bad, but really, is New York City dead?
No, this is my take, right? When President Trump said New York City is dead, you need to read through the lines, right? Liberals don't know how to do that because they have the personality of an accordion. So the difference is, when he said it's dead, he meant, listen, it's not what it used to be, which is the truth. Their favorite restaurant has closed. People have moved out. Places are up for rent. Apartments are more vacant than they were before. The median household income moved out. The homes that were for sale, those prices dropped. So I get what he was saying when the president said it's dead. And then everyone twists the words like, we're jumping, we're bombing. Jerry Seinfeld said a whole little nursery rhyme, haiku, saying, we're not dead, we're alive. You got to understand what he was saying. No, New York isn't dead, but we took a dent. And it's going to take a while to get back to where we were. All of your favorite places that you loved, the Turkish place on the corner, the great halal place on the corner, one of my favorite hummus places and Middle Eastern places that I used to love, closed. All the Italian restaurants that I love, closed. That's what makes New York, is a different cuisine on each corner, the restaurant scene, so many different types of people that come together for this great city. I'm going to be biased, greatest city in America. But it's not dead, but Lance, it's going to take a while to get back to where we were. I mean, it's a shame, and we allowed it to get to this place. And I did my part. I voted Republican every time because those are the type of leaders that I want leading my city. Obviously and unfortunately, there's a lot of people in New York City that do not agree with me. Some will say for better, for worse, it is what it is.
Are there any pockets of New York City that are Republican?
Yes, there are.
Because I know Staten Island pretty much is.
Staten Island's very Republican, right? It's like, the only Republican
the other four boroughs. I mean, I would be hard pressed to find a fucking hipster in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, that just happens somehow to vote Republican.
Well, I'll say this, Lance. You got to look at it like this. 2016, obviously, it was like 80-20. 80-20, okay, in New York City, going Hillary Clinton, President Trump. In 2020, it went 73-27. So President Trump gained ground in that election. Now, New York City's never going to go red. That's unfortunate. You mentioned the Williamsburg, Brooklyn hipster. That's a very liberal area, Brooklyn, but he gained ground. Yeah. So that's where the whole take on this whole thing was. President Trump gained ground, gained inlands on people and demographics and certain ethnicities, and he did better, right? Staten Island's very Republican. Manhattan, probably, listen, it's very liberal, obviously, as well. Brooklyn is the most liberal, in my opinion. Bronx is pretty liberal. Queens is pretty conservative, but it's more Democrat than Republican. But that's the next borough that you would find more pockets of Republican voters and even donors. And Manhattan, depending on where you go, but it's primarily Democrat as well. I mean, Bronx and Brooklyn is as left as you go, right? And then Staten Island is very right. And then you have Queens that's kind of over here. And then Manhattan, I don't want to call it in the middle. It leans Dem for sure. But listen, I saw some Republican paraphernalia this past election cycle. And we will know for sure. We will know for sure where people sit once we see this mayor election in New York City, which happens this year.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think Manhattan will ever change. I mean,
I agree with that.
Yeah, it'll never change. I mean, when you have
so many liberal neighborhoods and pockets, right? You have
but when you have the New York Live headquartered right in Manhattan, it's just never gonna.
I mean, listen.
I don't call them by their name.
Right? The fake news, CNN is based in Manhattan. Yeah. The slimes or the lies, whatever you want to call it on that day, right? They're based by Port Authority Terminal, which is like on 42nd Street in Midtown, very close to Times Square. You know, they're there. But look, we got the New York Post, right? The New York Post is a very Republican, I would say Republican-leaning publication in New York City. Wall Street Journal leans a little Republican as well. So we got some inlets as well.
Yeah. That's the problem when you have the New York Lives just controlling the climate of opinion in New York City. And you have so many people that read the New York Times like it's literally Sunday gospel and take it back. And they've been busted time and time and time again for lying.
Lance,
nobody over there seems to catch it.
They don't care, right? Because the New York Times has gotten it so wrong. And this whole pandemic, I just saw an article that was written last year, okay, that said that it was going to take 10 to 15 years for a vaccine to be developed. Of course, doom and gloom, because you heard it on Project Veritas that gloom sells and, pessimism sells. So you can run that timeline, New York Times, when President Trump was the president. But when Biden is the president and President Biden is calling the shots now, quote unquote, now it's an American miracle that we got the vaccine. We know how we got the vaccine, but you don't want to give credit where it's due. So
I'll tell you
that's the problem, is fear sells when you don't like the leader or the president, and optimism also sells when you love the president. Crazy.
I'll tell you, the only positive thing I can take away from the Biden presidency is that it gives me a reason to go to Delaware in the future, to go to the Presidential Library and Museum. That is fucking it.
At this point, Lance, it's just like, think about it, right? How long does it take to build a presidential library?
Like 4 years, I think. Maybe.
4 years, okay, right? Can we assume that President Biden's going to be a one-term president? I mean, how old is this guy, right?
Can you even assume that like his library will be completed before he just?
That is my take.
Yeah.
So is this presidential? And I hate to sound like this, but with all due respect, if you've seen clips of President Biden in the Obama administration and now, it's a vastly cognitively different person. The fact that the Democrats don't want to acknowledge that, but it's okay. When President Trump was the president, they had a psychologist, they had a therapist, they had whatever cognitive capability, any doctor you want on to do a test. Then they discredited physician Ronnie Jackson. So we know this guy isn't cognitively what he used to be. Will he be cognitively impaired completely by the time his presidential library is complete? It'll be in his 90s. It's a question to ask. So the answer is, I don't know. I don't know. And President Trump, he's like, don't build anything for me yet. I think I'm going in the ring in 24. And you know what? He's gonna have a great chance to Grover Cleveland this, right? President Grover Cleveland.
Yeah, dude. I don't even want to get on that topic because it's just like that could just turn the conversation into a whole different direction.
I know. Well, I mean, that's one for another day, right?
But like, you know what? I will say one thing. I don't mind liberals. My issue is like the far left of the Democratic Party. You know, like I think like a fair liberal right now is maybe Andrew Yang. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe
he's only running as like a
New York and this mayor election. What has this guy done? Like, what has Andrew Yang done? Like, can someone explain to me what this guy has done?
He actually owned a couple
qualified to be the mayor of New York, and the same person that would be like, how dare you question Andrew Yang's qualifications? What qualified President Trump to be the president? I don't know, because he was an investor, he created his company, he employed people. Andrew Yang once said he was promised to employ 150,000 people. It employed 100 people. The New York Times ran that article.
Yeah.
So
he actually is a businessman and has businesses and has had them. Like, I think he has that acumen to like tell like what's a loss to what's a gain, but it's just hard to tell. It's hard to tell somebody like him because I think his political expediency now has just grown within him, that he'll do the more politically expedient thing than maybe the correct move. You know what I'm saying?
If this guy didn't run for president, would people know who this guy is?
Fuck no.
Of course not. So if he was really serious about New York City, he would have said, you know what? Screw the president. He ran to gain notoriety. He knew he was going to win. He did it so he got his name out in the news. It was all a publicity stunt for the guy. Sorry, that was the case. Then he was going to run for mayor of New York. If he was really serious about our city, he would have been like, you know what? 2020 is a pipe dream. I'm going to allocate my resources, know that Bill de Blasio is an idiot, and I'm going to run for mayor. And Bill de Blasio, thankfully, is term limited, so he cannot run again, unlike governor of New York that is no term limits on the governor of New York, right? Andrew Cuomo is in his third term. He's in his third term, right? And Andrew Cuomo said he's going to run again because that's it. All these scandals, he can't run for president, right? Because they want to give it to whatever they call Kamala Harris. I don't even know what she is. But, you know, so at the end of the day, no, I don't know who's going to win this mayor election, and I don't know what the deal is with Andrew Yang is, but you're right. The ultra-liberal politician is unbearable. We both have Democratic friends. We both have friends that don't see the political landscape through the lens that we see it, and that's okay. It's the intolerable lefties that don't really have the facts, will say you're a racist, that say you're just misogynistic, whatever that means, and they'll just ring in the nursery lines from the media. And they can create their own path, per se, right? It's the common little points, right? You're racist, you're homophobic, misogynistic, and they just go down the line of checking boxes, right? Tucker ran a piece on checking boxes.
I mean, this happened to me, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I went out to eat, and I'm sitting at the bar, and there's like some girl, you could tell she's a clear lefty because she has fucking neon green and neon pink hair, piercings and tattoos and whatnot. Which, I mean, fine, it's her own deal, but usually a telltale sign I'll tell if someone's like what they lean, you can pretty much get their impression of like how they look, right?
Oh, I mean, if you got your pronouns in your bio.
Oh yeah, that's the obvious one. If you have pronouns, yeah, I don't even bother with that person.
I hate to make generalizations of people, and listen,
yeah,
I would never judge a book by its cover, but listen, Lance, if you got 100 pins on your backpack and your hair isn't your natural color, there's a good chance you're not a Republican.
Yeah. So she's like rambling on, and like for some reason just pointed me out because I think I was sitting right next to him. I had my hair done, like slicked back like it is now. I'm sitting there wearing like a collared shirt and eating my steak, and she's like, it's because of toxic masculinity like this, and that's the two words right there that just like gets me. I'm like, you know what? Like toxic masculinity.
What does that mean? Like,
I told her, I was like, you know what? Only because of the fact that I'm not white is the reason why you're saying I have toxic masculinity. Because if I were white looking, you probably would have called me a white supremacist for no reason.
That's
I don't even know you in my life.
Like Latinx. How many times are we hearing Latinx? These term words.
I have so many friends of mine that are Hispanic.
Lance, I'm Hispanic.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, what do we? It's nuts.
They've told me
you're
before.
Hispanic, you got to be a Democrat.
And they've told me before. There's nothing more they hate right now than that word, like Latinx.
Latinx.
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm Spanish. I'm Hispanic.
Dude.
I identify as Hispanic Latino. I don't know what it means. It's crazy, bro.
All it is just another attempt at your typical white, highly educated college professors that are fucking losers to try and tell a group of people, hey, this is what we're going to call you now, and you're going to adapt this word to your language and your grammar and all of that.
That's the difference. Yeah. That's the Democratic model, okay? Anyone that's listening. The Democratic model is look different, think the same. And that's what they want now, because you can't look the same and think the same because that's white nationalism. That's white supremacy. That's the KKK. That's Jim Crow, right? So the Democrat model is we're going to all think the same but look different. Crazy.
Oh, let me finish the story about the girl sitting next to me at the bar, right? She goes to me, she goes, we should take all white men and just ship them off to sea. And I told her, we actually did that 76 years ago. And guess what? We saved the world in World War II.
I mean,
she didn't have anything to say.
Nothing to say. Nothing to say. Nothing to say. It's crazy. You have people apologizing for their whiteness. You have people apologizing for how they were born because that's the way we're going in society. It's just like, I'm sorry. Like when I look for an employee or a staffer or someone to work on our team and work for our company, I don't look to check boxes. Are you white? Are you black? How do you identify? Are you a good ass worker? Do you like your job? Are you going to work hard and be diligent and be a good team member? Okay, then Lance, if that's the case, you're hired. It's so simple.
You know what's the thing I
really for the job? Oh no, wait. You're a cisgender male. Okay, you're good. Like what?
Did you watch that CIA commercial the other day?
Of course. That's what they're checking boxes. Like, this is the #1 spying agency of this country. And we're talking about cisgender male, like women. I got 2 seconds in this. I go, what the fuck is going on? Like, it was just so crazy. I I know there's other people out there that think it the way we're thinking this. Like, this is the Central Intelligence Agency that we're talking about, and then you have to listen to Mike Pompeo, and he's tweeting about, well, we never ran the CIA this way. John Brennan ran the CIA into the den, okay? This guy was spying on the Trump administration. This guy was just one of the shittiest CIA directors ever, and now this CIA, and then you have this CIA, which is just a nightmare. Like, what is going on? This is their ad. This is their video of what the CIA is. The number one intelligence agent, spying intelligence agency in this country. Come on, Lance. Like, if we are like, if you are Russia, if you are China, if you're Turkey, if you're Iran, if you're North Korea, and then you watch that, you can't even tell me they don't think we're a joke.
Oh, not even just a joke.
There's what
they're fucking laughing. They're fucking laughing right now. They're putting all their nukes and their missiles back into the ground because they're saying, you know what? We don't need to waste a nuke or a missile on them because they're just fucking themselves over right now.
They're just so ridiculous. They are just so ridiculous, and it just doesn't even make any sense that they are laughing us all the way to Biden's nap time. And because it's what it is. No one's taking us seriously. North Korea's laughing at us. And I get it, it's North Korea. That's a crazy dictator there. But at least he was respected by President Trump. You want our leaders to be respected, not worried about what the EU thinks. Who cares if Justin Trudeau doesn't like us? Who cares? It's not important. Our national interests are not for sale. Like, you have this Iranian regime that is so terrible, and we brought all the Middle East together, and we said, Iran, we don't need you. We had Israel at everyone's door, Israel at United Arab Emirates, Israel with Saudi Arabia, Israel with Bahrain, Israel with Qatar. Like, and then all this just evaporates under the Biden administration?
The holy grail of foreign policy is Middle East peace with Israel and all the other nations of the Middle East. Trump accomplished that.
He got that done.
Dude.
He got that done. So it's just, we can spiral onto this whole thing. It's a conversation for another podcast for sure. But it's just so crazy. And it goes back to the New York City microcosm about liberal policies are not about, or they claim they're all about holding people accountable and the Me Too and all that kind of stuff, but they're a party that lacks accountability, right? Look yourself in the mirror.
They really do. They really do hold such little accountability that they think good things just happen all the time, and when bad occurrences happen, it's always somebody else's fault.
It's someone else's fault.
Yeah.
Like, coronavirus happened, so it's President Trump's fault. I'm old enough to remember when President Trump, because all the Chinese people were coming from an infected state because they let that outbreak happen, and President Trump banned travel to China and canceled China. You cannot come to this country. Nancy Pelosi says everyone go to Chinatown. The president's a racist. But now India is going through their hubbub right now, and now India's travel is restricted. So it's only racist when you don't like the commander-in-chief. Again, back to accountability. Bill de Blasio called him a racist. Governor Cuomo called him a racist. Every other New York City and New York politician called him a racist. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, called him a racist. Oh, every person.
Nobody's calling him calling Joe Biden a racist right now because he banned travel from India.
Yeah, exactly. So now you're seeing that it's just like, listen, Lance, this is what's happening in New York City. You have people like AOC saying, wow, I'm pleasantly surprised with Biden. He's been more progressive than I thought he would be. Yeah, because he's pandering to your party. The Joe Manchin Democrat is gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist anymore. I agree 100%.
You know, they're only far lefties. And that's what New York City has become. And it took a pandemic for people to realize that these people are nuts. These people are nuts.
I just wanted to say a point from a few minutes ago about like the whole like apologizing for your whiteness thing. And I hope for anybody watching, don't apologize for it because they're making white privilege, even though it's not a real thing, akin to like original sin. Like you were born deformed and now you have to apologize for your deformity. No, you don't have to, because you were born in the right image, in the image of God, in the best country in the world, the most prosperous country in the world, the freest country in human history. You don't have to apologize for any of that stuff.
Lance,
be proud of it.
Apologize for who you are. Didn't the liberal musician Lady Gaga write a song saying "Born This Way"? Never apologize for who you are.
This is canceled her own song.
Gay, straight, whomever you may be, color of your skin, you're born that way. That's okay. But these people want white people to apologize for being white. But they're also cheering on Lady Gaga writing a song saying "We're born this way, baby." These people are just, they're so convoluted. They don't really have thoughts.
Well, if they have thoughts, they really are the worst thoughts any person could hold in their mind, because all they want to do now, and it's kind of obvious, they just want to dominate society into oblivion.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
When you really dissect this and we sit down in your chair and you realize, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is nuts. These people are trying to tell you, you need to apologize for who you are. And it's just like, you've seen some crazy ass clips of liberal people like apologizing in the streets for who they are. And it's like liberal people apologizing to even more liberal people. It's just like, Lance, you've seen all the clips out there. It's nuts. It's crazy, you know? And it's just, you know, you have Bill de Blasio at one point apologizing for his whiteness. Now, he's married to a black woman, but, you know, Bill de Blasio should not apologize for being white. That's who you are, despite me agreeing or disagreeing with your policies, mostly disagree. But you shouldn't have to apologize for how you were born. It is what it is, you know? And that goes onto cancel culture, and that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah. I mean, all I hope for right now, honestly, I just want New York City to get back to normal. And
Me too. We'll get there.
It's going to get there.
We'll get there. I mean, it'll take
if
time.
I would just come out there for a weekend this summer, I would hope it's like the same New York City that I remember in my mind from like the last trip I took.
Come after July, right? Come after this July 1st, this grand opening. And you make the judge for yourself. And then we can get together and we could talk about it, right? We could talk about it over a drink and be like, this is the city. And you can see it for yourself, right? And I think a lot of Democratic voters in our city are going to realize they voted themselves into this mess. And if you're a liberal voter that owns a business and you saw your business shut down, lose, furlough, or even terminate employees or even close your business, you need to do some soul searching yourself and realize, I voted for this mess. Is this something that I want for my city going forward in November when we elect a new mayor? It's something to talk about.
It's a great fucking question.
It's a great question. You have to do some soul searching. These liberal voters need to do soul searching. And you can go, is this what you wanted? Did you get what you wanted to pass here in 2020? Lockdown, shuttered, being told by the government when and when you cannot dine indoors, where and when you cannot go to the park, when and when you can't go to a sporting event, when or when not you're safe to go to the office. If that's the kind of life that you want, then go ahead. But in my opinion, the definition of insanity is doing something over and over and expecting a different result. If you didn't like what you saw in 2020 out of your Democratic politicians in our great city, and you still vote Democrat and you still vote the same way, that's on you. That's on you as a voter that you need to do some soul training. Wow, last year sucked. Maybe I'll try to vote and support someone that didn't support this lunacy. Because again, insanity over and over, expecting a different result. That's how I got to leave it.
I guess with that, we'll end up political talk. And I'll just tell you outright right now, if I do come out there this year, you got to take me to Citi Field. I've yet to go to a Mets game. I've been to a Yankees game before, and I fucking...
you'll love Citi Field more. You'll love Citi Field more, Lance. I promise you that. The Mets are in a tilt. Obviously, I'm a big Mets fan, so I'd love to have you out there. You can come into our company.
Not as bad as the Tigers are right
have
now.
a couple of adult beverages, and we can even further take this conversation. But Lance, always good talking with you.
Thank you. Anthony Sarafino. Appreciate you doing the episode of the Uncommon Dialogue podcast. And everybody, thanks for listening to two dudes vent a little bit.
Appreciate it, Lance. Take care.